On the surface of the moon, we just had one ascent engine. The fire had to catch, it had to produce the right thrust in the right direction. If one of those things didn't work right, they were dead.
In the summer of 1969, an amazing event happened that changed the course of history for America and the space race. Nearly 10 years earlier, the Soviet Union shocked the world by sending the first satellite into space. On July 20th, 1969, the Apollo 11 mission achieved what seemed impossible. However, the Apollo 11 astronaut who went on a secret moon mission just breaks the silence and shocks everyone. What secrets are hidden in the moon waiting to be discovered? Join us as we unravel some of the bone-chilling facts about the Apollo 11 missions. The historical moon landing. Exploring the moon wasn't the main goal. President Kennedy played a key role in starting the Apollo mission in 1961, which aimed to land humans on the moon. This move is often seen as brave and forward-thinking. Kennedy declared that the United States would reach the moon before the 1960s ended. However, Kennedy wasn't interested in exploring the moon just because he liked it. He saw it as a way to gain an edge during the Cold War. The Soviet Union's progress in space, like launching the Sputnik 1 satellite and Yuri Gagarin's space journey, made America feel threatened. Kennedy saw the moon as a chance for America to show its strength by getting there before the Soviets. Even though NASA didn't have everything it needed, it rose to the challenge. Many people worked hard to meet the tight deadlines set by Kennedy. Later, secret documents revealed that Kennedy's main goal was to show off America's industries and political power through lunar exploration. The Apollo project became a symbol of America's advanced technology and its belief in its ideology during the tense Cold War era. The United States made it to the moon before the Soviet Union, despite the Soviets starting ahead in space exploration. This was because the United States government gave NASA a lot of money, allowing it to do big projects like Apollo. The United States also improved its rocket technology and spacecraft design quickly in the 1960s. NASA's earlier programs, Mercury and Gemini, helped a lot by giving valuable experience and knowledge. When President Kennedy said in 1961 that America would put a man on the moon before the end of the decade, it seemed like a big goal, but it was realistic. America used new technology, successful missions, and careful planning to finally achieve the amazing feat of landing people on the moon with the Apollo 11 mission in 1969. Even though Kennedy might not have cared much about exploring the moon personally, his ambition pushed humanity to reach one of its greatest milestones. The Apollo 11 mission faced many challenges that almost turned into disasters. Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin, the astronauts on the mission, encountered a critical problem after their historic moonwalk. As they were preparing to return to the command module, they discovered that a vital switch, called the circuit breaker for the engine arm, was broken. This switch was crucial for arming the engine that would lift their lunar module back into orbit. Without it, they couldn't leave the moon's surface. Aldrin used a felt-tip pen to push the broken switch into the closed position, improvising a solution to engage the engine arm circuit breaker. This makeshift fix ensured that the engine arm was ready to fire when needed. Despite this success, their challenges were far from over. After a journey lasting 195 hours, 80 minutes, and 35 seconds, Apollo 11 touched down in the Pacific Ocean for recovery. However, bad weather caused the spacecraft to land 13 miles further from the recovery ship, USS Hornet, than planned. Many people are fascinated by the idea that aliens might pose a threat to space travel, with some believing that NASA is hiding this information. According to this theory, encounters with extraterrestrial beings during space missions have caused space agencies like NASA to either stop exploring space or keep these encounters secret. Supporters of the alien threat conspiracy theory claim that NASA and other space agencies have come across highly advanced alien civilizations during their missions, whether manned or unmanned. They argue that these encounters revealed hostile intentions and technology far beyond human understanding, leading authorities to keep this information from the public to prevent widespread panic. This theory suggests that NASA, possibly working with other government agencies, has hidden evidence of alien encounters to avoid causing chaos in society. Supporters argue that if the public knew about the potential alien threat, it would erode trust in space exploration and scientific progress. Some point to incidents like the Apollo missions or robotic exploration missions, claiming that evidence of extraterrestrial encounters exists but has been deliberately concealed. NASA, however, operates as a civilian agency with principles of openness and transparency. Their mission includes scientific discovery, technological innovation, and sharing knowledge with the public and international scientific community. Despite this, some remain skeptical and question whether NASA is truly transparent about any potential encounters with extraterrestrial beings. The idea that strange things on the moon are stopping us from exploring space has caught a lot of attention lately. People who believe this theory say that mysterious stuff on the moon, like weird buildings or unusual happenings, are making it hard for us to explore more and are making space agencies not want to go back there. One thing they talk about is strange structures and objects on the moon's surface that we can see in pictures from different missions. They think these things might be signs of aliens or really smart humans doing stuff up there. Some people say that astronauts and space agencies saw scary things during earlier missions or in pictures from satellites, and that's why they stopped going back. They think maybe they saw aliens or something else that made them stop exploring. These folks believe that governments are hiding these things to stop people from freaking out or to protect their interests. They say that if we knew about these weird things on the moon, we might not want to explore space anymore, or we might find out secrets about aliens or new tech. But there are other reasons why we're not going back to the moon right now. It's not just because of weird stuff up there. We're told it's mostly because of money, changing priorities, and how hard it is to send people into space. Some space agencies are focusing on exploring Mars instead, or finding ways to use things in space. Scientists are always studying the moon, though. They've sent lots of robots to look at it and have taken tons of pictures and data. Race to the moon. In the 1960s, there was a big race between the Soviet Union and the United States to get to the moon first. President Kennedy gave a famous speech in 1961 saying America wanted to go to the moon. But the Soviet Union kept their plans to go to the moon a secret until much later, admitting it in 1989. Even though they denied it publicly, the Soviets were working hard on their Lunar program, which continued even after the Americans successfully landed on the moon in 1969. Instead of sending people to the moon as the Americans did with Apollo 11, the Soviet Union focused on sending robots and unmanned spacecraft, like the Lunar missions. These missions had different goals, like orbiting the moon, making soft landings, and bringing back samples. However, the Soviet Lunar program faced a lot of problems, like things breaking, issues with the rockets, and not having enough money. One big failure was when the Luna 50 spacecraft crashed just before Apollo 11 landed successfully. To make it short, the USA got to the moon first and won the space race. The Apollo program, which aimed to land humans on the moon, was too expensive. The US government, already low on money, wasn't eager to keep funding more moon missions. Making new technology and spaceships for lunar missions would have cost a huge amount of money. Also, after the first moon landing, Apollo 11, people weren't as excited about going to the moon anymore. They thought landing on the moon was cool, but more of a symbol than something very important for science. This made it less urgent for NASA to keep going back to the moon. NASA decided to focus on other things. They started working on things like the Space Shuttle program and exploring closer to Earth, like low Earth orbit. It turns out, using spaceships over and over again is cheaper than going to the moon every time. They had other big projects to worry about, like the Hubble Space Telescope and the International Space Station. Back when the Apollo program was happening, it was also a big deal because of politics. The US and the Soviet Union were in a big rivalry called the Cold War. Landing on the moon showed that the US was very advanced technologically, but once they did it, the need to keep going to the moon kind of faded. Even though the Apollo missions taught us a lot, some people wondered if there was much more to learn from going back. NASA had already picked up rocks and data from the moon, so some scientists thought there wasn't much else to gain since going to the moon was risky. There was a scary incident on Apollo 13, and even though technology got better, going to space was still dangerous. People started worrying more about safety, and if something bad happened in space, it could cause a lot of political problems. Even today, going to the moon is still tough. It costs a lot of money, and safety is a big concern. Some people wonder if it's worth it scientifically, but there are new plans to go back to the moon. The Saturn V rockets were close to blowing up. In the late 1960s, when people were just starting to explore space, NASA had an incredible plan. They wanted to send humans to the moon. To do this, they built a huge rocket called the Saturn V. This rocket was a real powerhouse, designed to carry astronauts beyond Earth's atmosphere and to the moon. The Saturn V was like the superstar of NASA's fleet, playing a crucial role in the Apollo program during the 60s and 70s. Not only did it carry astronauts to the moon, but it also helped launch the Skylab space station into orbit around Earth. The Saturn V stood an impressive 363 feet tall. Fully loaded with fuel, it weighed an enormous 6.2 million pounds, making it one of the heaviest machines ever built. And when it roared to life, it produced a mind-blowing 34.5 million newtons of thrust at liftoff, enough to power dozens of cities. And when it came to carrying cargo, the Saturn V was a beast, capable of launching over 130 tons into Earth's orbit. When it came to the moon, it could still carry an impressive 50 tons. The first test flights of the Saturn V were nerve-wracking affairs, with Apollo 4 and Apollo 6 launching without any astronauts on board. These missions were all about putting the rocket through its paces, making sure it was up to the task of carrying humans into space. But it wasn't until Apollo 8 that the Saturn V carried its first crew into orbit around the moon. Though they didn't land, the astronauts of Apollo 8 made history as the first humans to see the far side of the moon with their own eyes. Subsequent missions, like Apollo 9 and 10, continued to push the boundaries of what was possible, testing out new spacecraft and procedures in preparation for a lunar landing. Then, in 1969, came the moment the world had been waiting for: Apollo 11. With the help of the Saturn V, astronauts Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin became the first humans to set foot on the lunar surface, while Michael Collins orbited above in the command module. But the Saturn V wasn't done yet. It went on to launch more missions to the moon, including Apollo 12, 14, 15, 16, and 16, each one building on the successes of the ones before it. Even when things didn't go as planned, like during the famous Apollo 13 mission, the Saturn V proved its reliability, safely returning the crew to Earth despite a near-disastrous malfunction. Neil Armstrong's big declaration upon landing on the moon has lasted through time, echoing through history. However, the famous phrase, "That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind," might have been slightly changed. Armstrong himself later said he had said, "That's one small step for a man." The difference comes from a problem in the audio during the Apollo 11 mission. The important A in "for a man" was supposedly not heard, leading to the wrong quote that has stayed for years. This small grammatical issue caused a lot of debate and careful examination, with Armstrong talking about it in 2006. Then comes Peter Shanford, a careful computer programmer who looked closely at the audio recording. His study found a quick, unclear sound between the words "for" and "man," suggesting Armstrong did include the important A in his famous saying. At first, whether Armstrong said "a man" or not might seem unimportant, But in the context of the space race and humanity's hopes, every word Armstrong said was very important. Lunar exploration. Challenges. One big challenge is the lunar dust, which is very different from the dust we have on Earth. It's made up of tiny particles and sharp glass pieces. This dust sticks to everything because there's no wind or water to wash it away. To spend more time walking on the moon's surface and studying it, scientists need to make spacesuits last longer. This is because the moon's surface is not as safe as it might seem. NASA set a big goal in 2015 to make spacesuits last longer so astronauts can spend more time outside their spacecraft. The idea is to make suits that can withstand 100 extra activities, called EVAs, totaling about 800 hours on the moon's surface. This would be much longer than the Apollo missions. Making better suits is crucial for setting up a permanent base on the moon. But why is lunar dust such a big problem? Well, since it sticks to everything, it can damage spacesuits and equipment. When micrometeoroids hit the moon's surface, they create more dust. And because there's no weather to wear it down, the dust just keeps building up. When the sun shines on the dust, it gets charged with electricity. This makes it even stickier and harder to get rid of. To tackle this problem, NASA started a challenge in 2021 to come up with new ideas. One solution is to use special materials that can repel dust, like conductive fibers and electrically charged brushes. Another idea is to make suits with fabric that mimics the structure of insect wings. NASA is also working on adding an electrodynamic dust shield to spacesuits. NASA's plan for keeping astronauts safe during long stays on the moon involves using tiny tubes called carbon nanotubes, CNTs. These CNTs are super lightweight and tough, making them perfect for strengthening spacesuits. Unlike heavy metals like copper, CNTs don't weigh much, but they still conduct electricity well. By adding CNTs to the outer layer of spacesuits, NASA can make them stronger without adding extra weight. To make this work, NASA weaves CNTs into the outer layer of the spacesuit fabric, which is made of materials like Gore-Tex and Kevlar. This helps prevent the fabric from breaking down, especially when high voltages are involved. They also have to be careful not to use too much voltage, or it could damage the fabric. The special part of these spacesuits is their ability to keep themselves clean. They have a system that uses electrical fields to push away tiny bits of dust that might stick to the suit. They've tested it out on a prototype knee joint, and it worked well, getting rid of almost all of the simulated moon dust. Before the mission, Buzz Aldrin wasn't known to be very religious, but he secretly prepared to express his Christian faith when he landed on the moon. He saw the lunar landing as a chance to show his personal beliefs. He made arrangements with his minister to have communion on the lunar surface, which is a symbolic way of worshiping in the vastness of space. This private ceremony happened shortly after the famous moonwalk, but it's not widely known in the history of space exploration. Aldrin wanted to keep it secret because NASA was worried about how the public might react. Even though he wasn't the first person to pray in space, he was the first to have a Christian sacrament on the moon. Aldrin took bread and wine that had been blessed on Earth and did the Holy Communion. He did this while getting ready to step onto the moon's surface as the second person to ever do so. He asked for a moment of silence and invited his teammate Neil Armstrong to join, but Armstrong respectfully chose not to. NASA didn't want to talk about Aldrin's communion because they were afraid it might cause problems, like what happened during the Apollo 8 mission when astronauts read a passage from the Book of Genesis and people sued NASA. But over time, people have come to respect Aldrin's actions. The mark of humans on the moon from the Apollo 11 mission goes beyond just the American flag planted there. Footprints left by Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin are perhaps the most enduring symbols of our presence. With no weather to wash them away, these footprints could last for centuries. But there's more to the story than just footprints. Part of the landing module stage was purposely left behind, carrying a plaque with a historic message. Here men from the planet Earth first set foot upon the moon. July 1969. We came in peace for all mankind. This act, along with the placement of tools and equipment, aimed to commemorate the achievement and promote a message of peaceful exploration to everyone. However, not all the things left behind on the moon are noble. Due to weight limits, the astronauts had to leave behind various items, including hammers, scoops, and even human waste. In total, 96 bags of human waste were left behind. The Space Launch System, SLS, is NASA's big dream machine for exploring space. It's a giant, super-powered rocket inspired by the legendary Saturn V. The SLS is built to carry really heavy stuff way out there, where Earth's gravity ends. The interesting thing about the SLS is that it's not all brand new. It's kind of a mixtape of NASA's greatest hits. It borrows a lot of its tech and smarts from past missions, like those trusty main engines from the old Space Shuttle program. Those engines have been there flying countless missions with hardly any hiccups, and because they've already proved themselves, using them again saves a ton of money compared to making all new engines. Some of the same companies that worked on the mighty Saturn V are still in the game today. Boeing, for example, is a big player, leading the charge as the main contractor for the SLS. The SLS is a time traveler, tracing America's journey into space from the Saturn program in the 60s to today. And its mission is to boldly go where no one has gone before, like sending humans back to the moon and even onward to Mars. The future frontier of lunar exploration. In recent decades, the field of space exploration has changed a lot with the rise of private space companies. Instead of only depending on NASA, companies like SpaceX, Blue Origin, and United Launch Alliance have taken the spotlight. They've built strong rockets capable of traveling far into space, challenging NASA's long-held lead in space travel. SpaceX's Falcon Heavy, which launched in 2018, is known as the most powerful working rocket ever made. But it's not alone. Other companies like United Launch Alliance and Blue Origin are also in the race, creating heavy-lift rockets that can compete with NASA's own Space Launch System, SLS. While these private rockets might not match the sheer power of the SLS, they provide serious competition. Some even think these private companies could make NASA's rocket development obsolete. However, NASA disagrees. Instead of seeing these companies as competitors, NASA views them as partners in a shared mission. NASA imagines a future where both sectors work together, using each other's strengths to reach common goals. For example, NASA plans to use commercial companies to build and operate lunar vehicles. However, public views on space exploration have changed. While NASA still supports its vision of space exploration, many Americans are increasingly skeptical about the need and importance of returning to the moon. Some argue that NASA should focus on urgent global problems like climate change, using its skills in satellite technology and scientific research. As people from different countries and private businesses show more interest in exploring space, many wonder why we're doing it and what benefits it might bring. One big idea is whether becoming a spacefaring species can improve life for everyone. There's a lot of talk about mining in space, especially on the moon. There are some good reasons this could happen in the next few decades. One exciting aspect of mining the moon is a substance called helium-3. This material is rare on Earth, but plentiful on the moon. Helium-3 could be a game changer because it can be used in very clean nuclear reactions. These reactions could help produce energy, treat diseases, and detect radiation. The moon's surface is covered in a layer of loose material called regolith, which is full of helium-3. This makes it seem quite attractive to try and extract it. But it's not just helium-3 that interests people. The moon is full of various useful materials like metals: iron, titanium, aluminum, and more. These metals are common on Earth, but getting them from the moon might be easier and could help set up bases there. From these minerals, we can make oxygen, hydrogen, and water, which are essential for life and fueling rockets. The moon also has rare Earth elements, which are crucial for making gadgets and batteries. These elements aren't rare on Earth, but they are hard to find and extract because they are spread out in the ground. Mining them on the moon might be better for the environment and provide a more reliable source of these valuable resources. Many countries like China, America, Europe, India, and Russia are interested in moon mining. Even private companies are looking at the opportunity to get involved. But there are no rules about mining in space yet. Existing space laws don't say much about who can own what or where they can dig. So, if we start mining on the moon, we'll need to figure out who gets to do what and who owns what they find. If we decide to go back to the moon, it probably won't just be a short visit. It might be for a long stay, maybe even to set up homes there. During the final journey to the moon before the historic landing, something very strange happened. A strange sound of music. Apollo 10 went on its mission from May 18th to 26th, 1969, just a month before the official lunar landing. This mission was essentially a practice run, orbiting the moon in preparation for the upcoming landings. Everything seemed to be going smoothly until an eerie event occurred. As the astronauts passed the far side of the moon, they experienced something truly unusual. It's been suggested that they heard mysterious sounds like music coming from space. Some even thought these sounds resembled an otherworldly orchestra, leading to thoughts of extraterrestrial involvement. Despite the astronauts' amazement, the event was kept secret for nearly 50 years until NASA released the recordings in 2016. The astronauts described the sounds as similar to outer space-time music, expressing their confusion about the strange auditory phenomenon. These mysterious melodies were like a haunting, alien serenade, echoing through space. What made the encounter even more puzzling was the timing and place. The sounds appeared at the farthest point of the moon from Earth, a region where communication with NASA was briefly lost. In that remote area, cut off from Earth transmissions, the astronauts were surrounded by the enigmatic melody, unable to figure out its source or purpose. Despite many theories and guesses, the true nature of these space harmonies remains a mystery. Was it just a natural phenomenon, an echo of cosmic vibrations, or perhaps an encounter with extraterrestrial intelligence? The questions remain, sparking curiosity and wonder as humanity continues to explore space and uncover the mysteries of the universe. Now it's time for today's subscriber pick. The Apollo 11 astronaut who went on a secret moon mission just breaks the silence and shocks everyone. In 1969, astronaut Jack Caldwell's Apollo 11 mission had a hidden goal. Besides planting the American flag, Jack was assigned to find an ancient object buried beneath the moon's surface, found by a previous mission's secret scans. As he explored the dark crater, he discovered a glowing alien device marked with strange symbols. The object, surprisingly warm, seemed to pulse with an unusual energy. Jack knew this discovery was huge, but the mission's orders were clear: return it without mentioning its existence. For decades, the world thought Apollo 11 was just a great human achievement. Yet Jack's journal, finally released in 2024, revealed the truth. The object was a signal, a message from an advanced civilization, hinting at their long-forgotten visit to Earth. Jack's discovery stunned the scientific community, mixing historical achievements with cosmic mystery. The moon, once a symbol of human success, now carried the hint of ancient extraterrestrial visitors, making humanity consider its place in the universe. What do you think this ancient message means for humanity's future? Let us know your opinion in the comments section. Saturn moon Enceladus. For thousands of years, people have gazed at the stars, deeply curious about the universe and wondering if we're alone. New research is challenging the idea that Earth is the only place with life. Among the many exciting discoveries, one stands out: Saturn's moon, Enceladus. This icy moon is considered one of the best places to search for extraterrestrial life. Let's take a closer look at Saturn and Enceladus. Saturn, the famous planet, orbits the Sun from 870 million miles away. It has a diameter of 75,000 miles, making it the second largest planet in our solar system. Saturn has 82 moons, and Enceladus is one of the most fascinating. Discovered in 1789, Enceladus is about 300 miles across at the equator and covered by a thick ice layer. Its surface is marked with pits, faults, and depressions due to the high purity of the water ice. Reflecting 99% of sunlight, Enceladus is one of the brightest objects in the solar system, with a surface temperature of about 330 degrees Fahrenheit. Beneath its icy crust, Enceladus is hiding some intriguing secrets. Scientists have discovered that some parts of the moon's surface are still very young, suggesting ongoing geological activity. This activity includes cryovolcanism, where water erupts through the ice, forming large pools on the moon's surface. Enceladus is the smallest celestial body in our solar system, and scientists have observed such activity. This discovery came from the Cassini spacecraft, which began studying Enceladus in 2005. Cassini found a thin layer of water vapor on the moon, which seems to come from ice volcanoes or geysers. The observations also hinted at local geothermal activity, similar to hot springs on Earth. Enceladus has large fault systems that can be up to 100 feet deep and stretch for miles. These features suggest that ice masses on the moon might move and cause melting. The most surprising finding is that Enceladus may have a vast ocean beneath its thick ice layer. Measurements of gravity suggest that this ocean could cover the entire moon. The ice particles and water vapor observed in the Antarctic region's rifts indicate the presence of geothermal systems, likely fed by this hidden ocean. Initially, scientists thought this was a small water source, but further studies revealed it's a large ocean separated from the surface ice by a thick layer. The presence of liquid water is crucial for life as we know it. If life could develop near Earth's hot springs, similar processes might occur on Enceladus. The Cassini mission detected methane in the geysers' emissions, a substance that could point to microbial life. The abundance of methane in the thermal emissions suggests the presence of hydrothermal vents, which could support life forms. While the idea of life on Enceladus is still a hypothesis, it's not out of the question. Methane might have other origins, but the possibility of life remains exciting. Future missions like the Enceladus Life Finder aim to dig deeper into these mysteries and search for signs of life. The discovery of Enceladus and its potential for life impacts more than just science. It challenges our understanding of biology and our place in the universe. Finding life on Enceladus would not only revolutionize our knowledge, but also inspire further space exploration. This search drives the development of new technologies and highlights the importance of international collaboration. The Cassini mission, a joint effort between NASA, the European Space Agency, and the Italian Space Agency, shows how working together can achieve great things. Exploring Enceladus also leads to technological advances that benefit life on Earth, such as improvements in medical devices and environmental monitoring. As we continue to explore, we uncover not just the secrets of distant moons, but also deeper truths about our existence and the nature of life. The quest to understand life beyond Earth reflects humanity's endless curiosity and determination to explore the unknown. What are your thoughts on the shocking secrets revealed by the Apollo 11 astronaut? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section.